Like I don't want to hear the praise. I don't want to. I just want to hear God, and I want to be quiet so I can hear that, and start leaning a lot more into my intuition, which I've always kind of prided myself on, anyways. But it's impossible to do it with all the noise, especially with all the praise, and so I needed to be quiet so I know what to do and I know how to act. I think that guy in the guard shack was God just talking to me. And Katie goes, "Yeah, you think, Sean?" And I was like, that's fucking crazy. And she's like, "That's not fucking crazy." She said, "Sean, God's always talking to you. You just don't make the room to let him in."
When I watched this interview, I wasn't watching Sean Ryan because he was a former Navy SEAL. I wasn't watching Tucker Carlson because he was the one asking questions. I was watching because I recognized something. Sean Ryan looked like a man trying to explain an experience that had changed him. I know that look because I've lived it. This video isn't about proving Sean Ryan right or wrong. It's about why this journey reminded me so much of my own. One quick thing before we begin. If you're wondering why we're watching one of my bike rides, it's simply the backdrop. This isn't a bike video. I wanted something quiet behind the conversation. Because this conversation is the point.
I think, I'm not sure yet. I'm still, we talked last night. I'm kind of going through, I'm going through a crazy spiritual transformation right now. And I think God needs to be highlighted and maybe some good stuff. I mean, you can't put faith in man at all. And it's kind of sad to watch everybody scurrying around trying to find the next guy and who's it going to be. And you can already see people just like blindly like putting their faith into another human being.
One of the hardest things to explain is what it feels like when your understanding of the world begins to change. It isn't clean. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't suddenly have all the answers. In many ways, you realize how few answers you actually have. Watching Sean Ryan struggle to explain what happened to him reminded me of the early days of my own journey. Not because our experiences were identical, but because I recognized the process.
Well, you said you became obsessed with evil, uncovering evil, you focused on evil, and that somehow led to a spiritual transformation.
Yeah, well, so it never ends, is basically what I'm getting. Oh, I was talking about audience, and I was talking about being influenced, and then everywhere you go, people are patting you on the back and patting you on the butt, and, good job, you're doing God's work, you're doing this, and you see the views, and you see the comments, and you see the likes, and you see the reaction videos, and everybody's just praising you, and it gets to you. I didn't realize it was getting to me, but
it's not the criticism that destroys you.
It's
the flattery, that destroys you.
Because but they don't know what God wants. So you got all these millions of people, you know what I mean, interacting with you, telling you these things everywhere you go. And it gets to you. And I did, we talked last night about I just got back from a Ibogaine 5-MeO experience. Didn't go great. Found hell.
Hell.
Hell. And I don't want to go too far into it because I don't want to have a meltdown on your show. But
It's okay.
But I'm just not ready, to dive into it. But yeah, I've felt what hell was gonna be like. Not like seeing devils and fire and whatever, demons and all that. Like it was a feeling, and I never ever want to feel that again, ever.
One thing this interview reminded me of is how subtle pride can be. Sometimes it doesn't look like arrogance. Sometimes it looks like thinking you finally figured something out. That's a dangerous place to be. The more I learned, the more I realized how much I didn't know. Humility isn't weakness. It's understanding your proper place.
If my son's, playing with the electrical socket, and he keeps sticking his finger in there, and I'm like, no, don't. Hey, you're going to shock yourself. Hey, go time out. All right, that's it. Go to your whatever. Eventually, I'm just going to let him stick his finger in there and figure out why I don't want him to stick his finger in there. And I think maybe that's what Christ did to me. He was like, all right, here it is, buddy. You want to feel it? That's what it is. And I never want to touch that shit ever again.
Well, you seem
unless I have to.
Very resolved on that. I mean, it sounds like you really got a taste of it.
Worst feeling I've ever felt in my... Yeah, it's indescribable.
It's funny, normally I have curiosity. I would want to know more, but I actually don't want to know more. Because it's upsetting even hearing that. And so you came away thinking that God directed you to this place to teach you something, and that thing was you want to avoid hell.
I hope that's what it is. First, I thought that's where I'm going. But now I think maybe that's what it is.
What were your first reactions? Your first reaction was, I don't want to go there. So what do you do to keep from going there?
Pray, build a relationship, plant some seeds maybe. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out.
This may have been the hardest part of the interview for me. Not because I can tell you exactly what Sean Ryan experienced. I can't. Only he can do that. What I recognized was something else. I recognized a man trying to put words around something that changed him. If you've never experienced something like that, fundamentally changes the way you see the world. This part may sound confusing, but if you have, you understand why words suddenly become inadequate. Looking back over my own life, I've come to believe that God often works on a need-to-know basis. Sometimes clarity doesn't come all at once. Sometimes you receive just enough light to take the next step.
I'm just not really interested in anything else anymore because it's all garbage. It's that, black book right behind you, the Holy Bible.
That's the one truth.
That's it. You can't even look anywhere else. It's so painfully obvious at this point. To me.
Other than the experience you just had that you alluded to, what convinced you?
That's real?
Yeah.
Well, I've had a ton of encounters. But
encounters.
Yeah. Even after that, there's been it's been a long 3 weeks. And I'll just say this. I've talked to some of the most respected exorcists in the country. And I've been working with them, and things have happened. And really scary shit. And if that's happening and that's real, which is more real than anything I've ever experienced, then the other is definitely real too.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. If there are supernatural forces that are evil acting on people, which there are, and I've experienced them personally, then that's proof of God. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's not faith to me anymore. It's fact. It is 100% fact. There's just no other way to look at it.
Isn't that a comforting fact?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know what the hell we're in for here in the future, but I mean, it's definitely comforting, knowing that if you do the right thing, and we all know what that is, and you do your best, then hopefully you're going to end up, in a good place.
I'm not sure all of us know what the right thing is. When you say do the right thing, what is that thing?
Oh, I think people know.
Years ago, something happened to me that I still struggle to explain. For nearly 2 weeks, everywhere I looked, I kept seeing the name Jesus. Everywhere. I finally reached the point that I drove home asking one question. What do you want from me? The answer that settled in my heart was pretty simple. Get to know who I really am. Not what people said, not what denominations argued, not personalities. Him. That's when my attention shifted away from what people were saying and toward the word itself. That changed everything.
So, but you're saying that really the main problem to be addressed is not what's happening outside of us or in our political system, but what's happening inside of us. I think, as you said, we're all kind of evil.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how to fix it, Tucker. I mean, what the fuck do I know? But I think that maybe people need to tune out a little bit and start working on themselves. Maybe for lack of a better term, just be the person you want everybody else to be. And that probably won't work. But that's what I'm going to do.
That's the only thing that will work. Be the person you want everyone else to be.
I'm big on self-reflection and how I can improve, and I'm really big on trying to, making sure that I don't get too far ahead of my skis, that my ego doesn't blow up. But you just don't see a lot of things. You don't see a lot of things in yourself, and or it's hard to, like I said, and so like I told you last night, I'm just not really. That's why I'm off everything now. The only thing I'm on is YouTube, but I don't even look at the back end of the metrics or the financials like I used to. Like, I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on X, I'm not on TikTok, I'm not on anything. I don't want to see any comments, I don't want to see any view counts. I don't want to hear, Sean, you're doing God's work. I don't want to hear, Sean, you suck. I don't want to hear, Sean, you're a fucking Qatari, whatever. I don't want to hear any of it. Like, I don't want to hear the praise. I just want to hear God. And I want to be quiet so I can hear that and start leaning a lot more into my intuition, which I've always kind of prided myself on anyways, but it's impossible to do it with all the noise, especially with all the praise, and so I needed to be quiet so I know what to do and I know how to act.
There was another lesson I had to learn. I couldn't hear anything because my own life was too loud. During one of the hardest periods of my life, a close friend came to me with a simple message. Let God work. Be still. I wrote those words on a piece of paper and I hung them where I would see them every single day. They weren't meant for anyone else. They were meant for me. That was the beginning of learning how to become quiet. Not just externally, internally. Because if your own voice is the loudest one in the room, you'll never hear anything else.
And he looked at me and he read my mind from front to back. He said, you know all the shit that's going on with the kids? So that's not your fight. And then he kept talking, and I was like really worried about China, and that was when the spy balloon traversed over the U.S. and he brought up something about China, and I like lost it. I was like, how the fuck are you in my head? Like, how are you in my head? And so I totally blanked out on the rest of what he said, but I knew it was in, I'm like, wow. Said like 2 or 3 more things and then have a good night. And walked back into his guard shack. And I'd never seen this dude. I thought I'd met all the people that worked there because we're in and out. And we're going back to we're staying like this bungalow thing, like a duplex. And so we're walking back to the bungalow that we've been at all week, and I'm like, I think that guy in the guard shack was God just talking to me. And Katie goes, yeah, you think, Sean? And I was like, that's fucking crazy. And she's like, that's not fucking crazy. She said, Sean, God's always talking to you. You just don't make the room to let him in.
This is where everything finally comes together for me. When people hear the phrase set apart, they often imagine isolation. I don't. I think of priorities. I think of learning to care more about truth than popularity, more about humility than recognition, more about listening than speaking. Living that way won't always make you popular. In fact, sometimes it will make you an outsider. I know, because I used to feel like an outcast simply because I didn't fit in. Today, if standing apart is the cost of following what I believe is true, then I accept that. That's the difference. I used to be an unwilling outcast. Then I became a willing one. I don't expect everyone watching this to agree with every conclusion that I've reached. That's not why I made this video. I made it because someone else's journey reminded me to reflect on my own. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this, it's not to follow me. It's not to follow Sean Ryan. It's to seek the truth. Read the word for yourself. Be humble enough to admit what you don't know. Be quiet enough to listen. Because maybe, just maybe, God has been speaking all along.